Hello everyone, this is Caleb Simpson, and you are watching my walkthrough for The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild for Nintendo Wii U and Switch. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to gain access to Vah Medoh, which is the divine beast that is hovering above Rito Village, and I did go to Rito Village earlier in the walkthrough, so if you'd like to see when I arrived the first time and also all the cinematics that take place when that occurs, then you can refer to the video that's in the description where I show how to do that. Anyways, you can come back to Rito Village at any time or whatever, but when you're ready to finally continue on with the main quest and tackle this divine beast, and you finally are prepared and have all the heart containers you want and stuff, you just want to go to the very top of Rito Village and speak with Kaneli, who is the chief here. You can tell this, by the way, because he's huge. Like, seriously. Like, Link's looking up to him, and he's sitting down and everything. If he was standing up, he'd be even taller. So he's like twice as tall as the rest of the Ritos, and he's like 3 times as wide or something. I don't understand. But, like, I guess all the leaders in Zelda series are always gigantic. You know, you have all the King Zoras, you have Bucha, you have all the trees, you have all the various kings of Hyrule are all leaning towards the heavy-set side. Not quite as huge as these guys are, but still. All the other races are free to have gigantic leaders. That's why they're leaders, by the way. Like, they just survived long enough and got gigantic, and they're like, you know what? You're so big, you could be our leader, I guess. I don't understand. Maybe they're all just big boned. Maybe that's the thing, right? Except in this case, that would be big hollow boned, because just so you know, science fact, birds actually have, thinner bones, whatever. The space in the middle with their marrow is quite a bit larger, and they have, like, strands that go back and forth that provide structural stability. However, they're not as dense as other people's bones are. As a result, it makes them a lot lighter. This makes it a lot easier for birds to fly, but that also means that they're much more susceptible to blunt impact, such as being kicked or like throwing rocks at them or whatever. It will shatter their bones a lot easier than it does compared to other animals. One of those things I kind of idly wondered about with the Rito, like, yes, they're people-sized, but one of the reasons why humans wouldn't be capable of flight even if we did have wings, because we're too heavy for multiple reasons, and bones are just one of those. So that's the trade-off, right? The Ritos can fly, but probably the reason for that is because their bones are less dense, which means there's certain things they just can't do, such as melee combat. They can't get hit on their shield arm because the blunt force of the impact would shatter their arm, and likewise they can't use a melee weapon because it would break their arm for the same reason. This might be an explanation, too, for why the Ritos prefer bow combat to be at range, not just because of air superiority, but because it's what they're capable of. So they focused on that particular type of combat because it's something that they can do. Science, I tell you! And I know what some of you are thinking right about now. You're like, Feathered Edge, lol. Just like Rito's bones, you're shattering my dreams here. But anyways, I digress. I still think it's cool. Anyway, Kaneli will instruct you to go to the next alcove over, which is the love nest of Teba and Saki. Unfortunately, Teba is out because he's training, but you can speak with Saki and you will get back one of Link's memories, which is called Revali's Flap.
Impressive, I know. Very few can achieve a mastery of the sky. Yet I have made an art of creating an updraft that allows me to soar. It's considered to be quite the masterpiece of aerial techniques, even among the Rito. With proper utilization of my superior skills, I see no reason why we couldn't easily dispense with Ganon. Now then, my ability to explore the firmament is certainly of note. But let's not, pardon me for being so blunt, let's not forget the fact that I am the most skilled archer of all the Rito. Yet despite these truths, it seems that I've been tapped to merely assist you. All because you happen to have that little darkness-sealing sword on your back. I mean, it's just asinine. Unless you think you can prove me wrong? Maybe we should just settle this one-on-one. But where? Oh, I know. How about up there? Oh, you must pardon me. I forgot you have no way of making it up to that divine beast on your own. Good luck sealing the darkness!
So once you've experienced more Falco Lombardi than you will ever need, you want to sail to the north to reach the Shawarbo Shrine, or you can just warp there if you have been there previously. However, real quick, speaking of air superiority, you can also make this next upcoming boss significantly easier if you get a whole bunch of bomb arrows. We will get a bunch of free ones as we are working our way towards the dungeon as well. However, you can also get a bunch of additional ones that'll make the boss easier. So you can do this by either purchasing them with lots of rupees, refer to my dragon farming video in order to see how to get a bunch of rupees, and then you can just purchase them at the various towns. Otherwise, you can also farm them legit, and I will show you a way to do that. So the basic idea is that you can't use bomb arrows in the rain because you can't light the fuse, and thus the bomb arrow doesn't explode. It just does the damage of a regular arrow. And if you miss, then it will just roll around on the ground. You can pick it back up again and try again. Now, the same thing applies to enemies. If they are currently wet because they're in the rain, then the bomb arrow will not light, and thus it will not explode. And so if you dodge back and forth, you can pick them up. Be warned, though, that if enemies are currently undercover, they can still shoot you like normal, and it will explode. There are several enemy encampments where they will shoot bomb arrows. However, the best one to farm in the game is definitely going to be just north of Skull Lake here in Akala. You can place a campfire underneath the cliff just to the south so it's out of the rain, but also far enough away from the enemies where we can actually use it. Keep changing the time of day until it's raining. You can also look at your forecast to change the time of day just a little bit ahead in case there is a rainstorm coming. Also, make sure that you're doing it to rain and not to lightning, even though it is raining as well. You don't want to get struck by lightning or have the lightning kill the enemies. Be warned, there is one enemy that is underneath the branches of the tree, and that one will be undercover, and thus it is not wet from the rain, and so it can still shoot bomb arrows like normal. So you want to make sure you take that one out as soon as possible by using your bow. After you've done that, then we got all of our setup taken care of, and we're ready to start farming bomb arrows. Quick tip, take a picture with your camera and then set it as your sensor object so you can collect them easier, especially with the ones that roll past you. This makes it a lot easier to do so. Now, just so you know, enemies in Breath of the Wild will shoot arrows and then you can collect them off the ground. However, they will only create up to 10 arrows. After that, they will not spawn anymore. So after they've reached their limit and they've created 10 objects, they'll still shoot at you, but they won't actually create a collectible item. So what we want to do is you reset the area in order to reset their limit of 10 arrows so that we can keep collecting bomb arrows. So in order to do this, all you have to do is run away. You can actually look behind you and you'll see them disappear off your screen. This is when they despawn. And then if you move closer, they'll reset and they'll reappear and they'll back in their starting positions. This is also why we needed to kill that one Bokoblin earlier that was underneath cover, because it'll reset his position every time. So even if he moves, he'll still reset and reappear back in that same location and be shooting you with real bomb arrows every single time, so that's super annoying. So that's why we had to kill him. Now, in my experience, it often feels like one Bokoblin will run out of arrows and the other one still has a bunch left over, but if you're only getting bomb arrows from one Bokoblin, it's not very efficient that way, and you don't really have enough duration to really get a full, like, getting all of their arrows in one rainstorm for 2 passes. So what I recommend you do is just kind of reset the area halfway through the rainstorm. So if you look at your time in the bottom right corner, you can just reset it about halfway through, and that way it's pretty efficient the entire time. Now, something cool you can do if you have the DLC is you can throw down the travel medallion and just warp to that. Time is paused while we're warping anyways, and this will reset the area, reset the enemies, and all their number of arrows, but this way we're not wasting time running around. Instead, we can use that duration to be farming instead, so it makes our duration of our rainstorm a lot more efficient. So next, there are 2 methods to actually collect the arrows. The first method is to be really aggressive and get really close. Now, there are little hills just around the puddle that is underneath their platform, and so if you can taunt them into attacking you, but then you're just like weaving back and forth right there, then the bomb arrows will hit that little hill and it'll roll back down into the water where you're standing, so you can pick them up right away. This is really nice because you don't have to run around collecting them, so you're not wasting your time doing that, and they all end up in a one centralized location. Super nice. Another nuance about this, or strategy, depending on how you look at it, is you can break line of sight either using a Cryonis block or using the platform they're standing on. What I mean by this is that you let them see you, and then you stand with something else in the way so they shoot that instead. What this will do is it makes the bomb arrows plop down right into the ground right in front of you, so they're guaranteed to be able to pick them up. This is very fast and very easy to collect them. However, the problem is that because you break line of sight, they get confused. You need to get their attention again. Oftentimes what happens is only one will see you, and the other ones don't see you immediately, and also because they're confused, sometimes they can reposition to try and get a better shot at you. When this happens, they could be undercover underneath the branches, and as a result, they can shoot real bomb arrows, which will then blow up, obviously, and cause problems. I think the biggest issue with this is actually the fact that they will kill themselves. Again, because they're shooting the platform right in front of them, they could end up just blowing themselves up, which is a problem because they're ruining the entire farming method. The problem with this method is if you stay out of their sight for too long, they will lose interest and you have to gather their attention again. The easiest way to make sure that you keep their attention is to stay in their line of sight like 90% of the time, and you just move out of the way to protect yourself right before they fire, just for a split second, and that way you can guarantee that it works well. The other method that is a little more tried and true and easier to pull off, but not as efficient, is to simply be far away. Because you're standing on flat ground, the arrows will roll right past you. I recommend you have the hills just to the west, right behind you, so that the arrows will roll past you. They'll go up the hill and then roll back down to the bottom of the hill, so you can easily collect them. It makes this nice little cup collection area, which is great. So try to just keep your left and right movement really narrow, so that way the arrows will all collect in that spot. Makes them a lot easier to collect. Now, I'm not 100% sure about this. A lot of items in Breath of the Wild have a limit on the number of items of a particular type that can be in existence, so there might be a limit on the total number of arrows that can exist on the ground at any given time. I'm not 100% sure about that, but just to be on the safe side, try to like weave back and forth between like taunting them into attacking you and collecting them, so don't let them fire too many times because you might be wasting potential loot. So if you'd like to farm for bomb arrows and get them for free, that is a way you can do that. However, just so you know, as I stated earlier on in this video, it is more efficient overall to simply farm for dragon parts, sell them for rupees, and then purchase the bomb arrows directly from the various shops in the game. That is an overall more efficient use of your time. You'll end up with more total bomb arrows for the amount of time that you spend doing it. So once you've made all the preparations you want, you can continue on with the Rito Elder Kaneli's request and speak with Saki optionally if you want to. She'll send you north to her husband Teba, who is training at the flight range, which is just north of Shawarvo, north of Rito Village.
Yeah? I don't know you, and I'm actually pretty busy here. You should probably go.
So I've mentioned this location repeatedly throughout the walkthrough, but right next to me on the right there is a swallow bow leaning up against the wall. I think I already got it this particular Blood Moon cycle, but it's one of the best farming places to get sniper bows in the game because for sniper bows, I'm just using them primarily to hunt dragon parts and also to get Korok seeds and stuff like that. Sniper bows have a zoom on them typically, and they also travel twice as far. They're very accurate at long distance. So they're really useful for things like that. And so if you accumulate them over time, because this is a really easy one, you can get it every Blood Moon. The warp point's right there. It's just super great, super easy. So you can use it for stuff like that. I think I already grabbed it this Blood Moon, so I don't actually have it. But anyways, you probably have a swallow bow leaning up against the wall that you can grab, as well as a bundle of arrows the first time you come here. Anyway, it's up to you to decide if you want to use a sniper bow or a regular bow for this mini-game that Teba is going to force us to go through as a test to determine if we are worthy enough to fight Vah Medoh with him. So, it's up to you to decide which type of bow you want to use. Advantages of each. The regular bow is probably going to be the easiest to use, however, you're probably going to want to drift closer in order to do that. A sniper bow, you can keep your distance a little bit. It has the zoom on it, but then that way you don't have to move around as much. You can kind of stay in one position and shoot several of them at a time. So there's pros and cons to each, whatever way you want to do it. I think I ended up using a regular bow for this, but whichever way you prefer, there's a sniper bow right next to you if you want to use that instead. Anyway, Teba explains that in order to gain access to Vah Medoh, we need to break down its shields, and there's these targets that are around it that we need to shoot, and so you need to be able to aim your bow well while in midair. So this is a challenge where he is trying to practice here at the flight range and you shoot the various targets that are here. So he sets it up for us, and he wants us to take this challenge as well, and if we can successfully hit 5 targets within 3 minutes, then we will pass this test, and then we can go to Vah Medoh with him. So this is actually pretty easy, and this is, I'm assuming, the challenge that he is setting up for himself, his own training, so he's just seeing if we can do it too. The biggest thing to know with this is that the updrafts will restore your stamina, so just use your paraglider repeatedly, so alternate between using your bow and using the paraglider to restore your stamina. If you run out of stamina completely, or you hit the ground, you will lose, or if you run out of time. Honestly, though, we have way more than enough time, and if you're struggling with this, you can just get really, really close to each target and just shoot them point blank, and there's no way you can lose. Again, we have way more than enough time, not a big deal. Overall, I would say that this particular challenge is fairly easy. These tactics I'm talking about come into play more so when you return here later. If you've purchased the DLC after you complete the Divine Beast, you can come back to Teba, and he has a different quest available where you have to do the similar challenge, but it's significantly harder, so all the tactics I'm talking about become way more important for that. But anyways, as far as this particular challenge, it's pretty easy. 3 minutes, 5 targets, not a big deal. I would say the biggest thing that probably will mess you up is if you are attempting this and you only have one stamina wheel because you don't have a lot to work with, so if you're not paying attention, you could run out, you'll fall down on the ground, and then you'll lose the challenge. You have to start over again. So once you've successfully completed Teba's test, then he will then create a chest right next to him that contains a falcon bow. So you can open it now, or you can save it for later, whatever you want to do. When you've done all your preparations, speak with Teba again, and he'll throw some freebie bomb arrows at you, and then he'll take us over to Vah Medoh so we can tackle it and gain entrance to that dungeon. By the way, in case you didn't know, sometimes weapons have affixes on them, which is those like those bonus modifiers they have on them, so like long throw, or durability, or plus to damage, or whatever, or critical hit, or whatever. They have all those kinds of things. So you can get different affixes on different weapons, and the quality of the affixes is based on the amount of Divine Beasts you've completed and the number of shrines you've completed. So your progress through the game will give you higher quality items. Now, just so you know, a lot of items that enemies have don't do that. So like out in the world when you're fighting enemies, they don't drop special enchanted items. Those come from chests like this one right next to us, and also from like Test of Strength. So in particular, I think there's a couple other places they can get them, but those are the main ones that are reliable. Anyways, so a chest like this will always give you a falcon bow that will have a special affix on it, but the quality of that affix is based on how far you've progressed in the game. Now the reason I point that out is to say that two things about this, just so you know. This chest is easy to get to, it's right next to a warp point, you can save right next to it and open, and if it's not an affix you want, you can load and try again, and it's random every time, so you'll get a different affix, so you can just keep saving and loading until you get the affix you want, and then you can finally save and you've finalized your deal, which is great. So you can get exactly the affix you want. Chests are really easy to do this with, and this is a really easy one to access. And, just so you know, chests always have a guaranteed item. This one is always going to be a falcon bow, so you can guarantee you get exactly the falcon bow you want. Now, part of the reason why that's important to note is because instead of opening it right now, you could save it for later, say, for example, right before you go to the final Ganon fight. So you could save it and then wait till you've progressed more in the game so you can get a higher quality bow at that time. It's a guaranteed falcon bow. So save it for later or open it now, whatever you want to do. In my case, I got durability up, which is I actually think one of the better affixes you can get on a sniper bow. I'm not usually using it for raw damage, in particular in a case like this, because just so you know, bomb arrows will actually always do 50 damage regardless of what type of bow you're doing. It's completely irrelevant. The explosion damage of bomb arrows always does exactly 50 damage. So, because the bow type is irrelevant, instead of using the falcon bow that I just got, I'd actually be better off saving that for the boss, for example. Instead, for this challenge, what would be better is actually probably to use a lower quality sniper bow that I don't care about losing the durability on, such as that piece of garbage swallow bow that was behind Teba. But you know, it's perfect for this because I'm always going to do a guaranteed 50 damage anyway, so then I can save the durability on my more awesome falcon bow that I just got, and I can save it for later and use it for something else. Anyway, use whatever kind of bow you want. In this particular recording, I am using a royal bow. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. I was doing that because I felt like it was a little bit harder because I have to account for the fall-off range and stuff, and so thus I have to get a little closer. But I was just trying to show that even if you're not using an ideal bow, it's totally fine. So even though I'm getting kind of close, it's not really as risky as it sounds. These lasers are pretty easy to dodge. All you have to keep doing is just keep dropping down. Remember that every time that you use your paraglider, it will restore your stamina anyways, so it's very easy to get through here. Honestly, I'm actually not sure I think the only way for the lasers to hit you really is if you're either standing really close, not standing, floating really close to them, or if you're in the middle of aiming while the laser is traveling in the air towards you because you're holding still in midair. So I think those are the two cases where it's more likely for you to get hit, but otherwise I don't think it's really all that hard to avoid. Honestly, I think the best way to avoid it is like as the blue light starts appearing, just to drop down right about then, and that will guarantee that you don't get hit. But just get it about as close as you can. What I like to do is I like to start aiming at them, like either wait for them to shoot and then aim at them after that, or to try and shoot at them preemptively before they ever start aiming. So either shoot at them from afar, or wait until they shoot and then aim at them afterwards. So whichever way you want to do it, I just dodge them first and then I'm good to go. Now Teba did give us 20 bomb arrows for this fight, however any that you don't actually end up using just end up being freebies that we can keep, which is awesome because bomb arrows are kind of expensive and you should have more than enough bomb arrows to complete this challenge, so after that you just end up with some extras that we can keep, which is awesome. So I will be saving those for a rainy day. Or as I was explaining earlier on in the same video, bomb arrows don't actually work in the rain, so I suppose I won't be doing that. I'll be saving them for a non-rainy day. And apparently our flighty assistant did get injured in that fight somehow, so we're apparently going to have to do this dungeon by ourselves. I didn't see that coming at all. Anyways, Vah Medoh does require Tier 2 chill resistance, and you can accomplish this with either 2 pieces of the Snow Quill set, which I currently have, or you can use food buffs to accomplish the same thing, or even mix and match them if you wish. But anyways, you want to wear some pretty high armor for this, and you can also, just so you know, now that we have access to Vah Medoh, you can warp away and warp back to it until after you completed it anyways. So for now, we temporarily have access to warping to Vah Medoh, so you can totally dip out, get more spirit orbs to get more heart containers, swap your containers back and forth, you can get your armor more upgraded, or purchase more armor, or get more food for buffs. So whatever you want to do, now's the time. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, be sure to throw a like on it, subscribe, and stay tuned for more content just like this. Remember to stay awesome, you have an amazing day, and join me for the next video where we will tackle Vah Medoh.